Chris, could get you to do me a favor, would you? Just give that to Claire, please. Yeah. Appreciate that. I had looked this week. I'll just make sure I let you know.
I checked and didn't see him right away, but a couple days I checked. Still got
You know anybody will be more rightful than here.
pulled up to me.
We know for sure she wasn't here.
That's why I said, how can you guys prove that she wasn't here? Because I didn't know about it. Lucas said in my grade was, listen, I think they checked her here, not here. Listen, I got that for all these ones that I know of. Abby said that she had texted, she had taken my text. She had texted me. But
That needs to be regulated for her, obviously.
so clearly she came in like that first day we were back. The first day we were back. And told them she was coming over to get us 2 weeks notice. But I was like, she's going back tomorrow. She had told me back tomorrow she was going to quit because she had to do something in her business. I said, okay, so she had to give us a letter and everything. So I'm going to call her tomorrow. I'm going to call her tomorrow. Try to talk to her.
And just go ahead and bring it up about those days. And let's.
No.
already talked to Manny again. I really, if I was in your shoes, I'd just have to go that way.
Got to break away something to get these ladies just because they've been here. That doesn't mean they can, you know.
The problem is they can order the food, they can cook, they can't manage people.
Right.
You know, and that's a huge problem for you. I mean, that's really kind of what went down. You know,
And you know, it's just really simple, lady. You know, she had a hard time thinking outside the box. You know, when I did go outside the box, she would just, you know, go all pieces. You know, I mean, like.
don't see that with this one. I really don't.
So.
I think
I think it'd take a little while to get her trained on how to do stuff. You know, so
I'm gonna tell you, I really think 6 months from now you'll think, man, I'm lucked in a little
well,
bit here.
she's doing. Right now, they said these ladies are sort of at each other right now, so they're sort of out there on their own.
Yep.
So,
I can see that.
So they need somebody in charge, but I hope it doesn't chase her. I'll give her a heads up, be like, you know, we're going to get these ladies in line. I think we'll do what she said, but I just need to make sure,
And you know,
support her and back her.
we've done things like this before. If it comes down to it, we need to move some people out of your school and
Yeah.
get them off with another school. Not fire anybody, but
Right,
these people,
right.
you know, if that's what it takes, we'll do that too. So.
Okay, well, good deal. Well, I appreciate that.
All right.
Yeah.
Everybody ready? Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Elizabethton City Schools January board meeting. I'd like us to say a special welcome to Mr. Simmerly. Where's Mr. Simmerly? Mr. Simmerly is a new councilman, and he has agreed to serve as our liaison from the board and the council, and so we're very happy to have him. We're going to be bringing him out to visit all the schools very soon, so very important that he meet all the principals and walk around and see our kids and all the great things going on, so that's going to happen very soon. But we're very, very happy to have you here. If everyone would, please stand, and Dr. Gardenauer is going to lead us in a moment of silence and a pledge to the flag.
Let's have our moment of silence. Thank you. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd also like to say thank you to our Cyclones. Glad you guys are here. You guys take up a lot of room, so, you know, congratulations on a great season. So we're going to be recognizing you guys in just a minute. A couple of things before we get started. I'd like to say on behalf of the board, thank you all for all the nice gifts and the food and for making us feel special. So thank you all very much for that. Also, for the board, I'm telling you this now so you can think about it, because I'm going to bring it up at the end. We need to get together and talk about our 5-year plan, and it's very hard to make that happen, and I have a hard time asking everybody to come on a Saturday. So my thought is, if everyone would be willing, maybe after the February meeting, packed with stuff that maybe we could, after we adjourn the meeting, we could stay for a few minutes, go over the 5-year plan. And also Dr. Gardenauer and I have been talking, I think we've been talking about this since October, kind of talking about the progression from Bartleby being a program to Elizabethton being recognized as a super school, kind of what that means, kind of talking about that partnership with XQ, the grant, how that money is spent, how we go through all that. So I know that Ms. Peters and I went to most of the meetings with XQ and sat in on most of those conference calls. So we were pretty well versed in it. I know that Dr. May and Mr. Isaacs have been involved in it from the beginning, but for Mr. O'Quinn and Mr. Pless, I think it'd be a really good idea to get everybody up to speed on where we are with that. So think about that. At the end of the meeting, I'll just see if everybody's okay with doing that in February after the meeting. All right, Dr. G, you get to do some fun stuff.
Okay, we had our EHS varsity football. If you go ahead and come on up, and Coach Whitten, I saw him a second ago. Come on up.
Appreciate some of these guys being here this evening. I know we got basketball and a wrestling match going on today, but some of the other coaches couldn't be here. I know Tony's in the back there, but appreciate these guys being here today. Our senior class, we graduated quite a few of those guys. Their 4-year record is 40-9. Majority of them been in our program for 4 years, and many of them been starters for 2, 3+ years. Really been committed to our program all the way through middle school, and as they enter the 9th grade in our off-season programs. Many of these guys participate in other sports as well, and we got a couple of the younger guys here, but we try to get most of the seniors here, and just want to say thanks to these guys. A lot of them have put up great statistics and started a lot of games, and really helped us really compete at a high level. And over the last decade, our program in East Tennessee has been in the winningest program amongst the East Tennessee schools, so we're really proud of that, and the legacy these guys are leaving, and some of the leadership that these guys have to follow down here. So we're really excited about the direction we're headed. We're excited about where these seniors have taken us, and we got looking forward to what we got going on in the future. So we appreciate these guys' hard work, and football is a tough sport. In the season, out of season, physically, mentally, takes a toll on a lot of these guys, and they work extremely hard, and we're really proud of these guys and other guys that couldn't be here. So really appreciate all our coaches' help, our touchdown club, Mr. Boatman, Mr. Holt. This year is really great to be a part of these guys, and they've done a really good job for our program.
Thank you. They'll get a picture.
Yeah, we'll get a picture.
A row on the ground in front of the back row. So back and then back row.
Guys, thank you. It was a lot of fun watching you this season.
Yeah.
Mr. Hobson, come up and tell us all the goings-on at Harold McCormick.
Well, I've already been told that the timer's on, so I'll try to. We got about half a year to cover so far. But good evening, and thank you for allowing me to report on Harold McCormick Elementary this evening. We've had a tremendous fall filled with celebration and community service, as well as some of the wonderful achievements by our students. I'll begin with sharing with you about our Level 5 Growth Celebration in the fall. All of our students, as well as 6th grade from T.A. Duggar, came back to share in a wonderful day of celebrations and activities. It was the first time our school had received a Level 5 in growth. So that was a huge accomplishment for us. All the students had a blast as they made their way through various events, such as inflatable obstacle course, slip and slide, snow cone stations, and foam pits. And at one point we saw the foam pit. There was a huge chunk of it heading downtown about the size of a car. So it was pretty funny. With the support of Dr. Gardenauer and the board, we've been able to celebrate our students and have achieved perfect attendance for the 9 weeks. Ms. Schaff, who's our attendance clerk, organized a movie, popcorn, and drink for our students in the first 9 weeks with perfect attendance. The second 9 weeks, students decorated cookies and had hot chocolate. And the best part is the last day before we went on winter break, we had approximately 104 students that had perfect attendance for up to half of the year. So, and when we went back and looked at the numbers, we had almost half of them with 5 or less absences for the year. So that was a really awesome increase in attendance for us. And we want to thank you guys for the support and the attendance incentive and things of that nature. Some of the improvement projects that have been completed for the board with the support of Dr. Gardner and you guys. Within the building, we've had carpet removal down in the workspace near kindergarten and first grade. They've been able to fill in the terrace and create a more usable space for the teachers and students down there. They also, stemming from the purchase of the adjacent property down there, we were able to widen the exit in a lower lot. That makes it a little safer and less crowded during drop-off and pick-up in the morning, and they've recently just reinstalled the gate down there to make it more secure when not in use. We're presently waiting on installation and completion of our new bathroom partitions in the main level of the school, so we're excited about that. Let's see. In October, we had a great report from Camp Explorer, which is our 5th grade annual trip. The chaperones did a great job, as always, and the students really enjoyed their hands-on activities. We've had some extracurricular groups that have been really busy. With Girls on the Run is a motivational program that teaches our young ladies how to take care of themselves and learn about who they are. Has a positive impact on their development. I've been pleased that they've also had a positive outlook on life and made a lot of friendships. They've had a few examples of some things they've done in the community as far as this fall. They went and visited Ivy Hall, had a stuffed animal drive for our friends over there. They also provided Christmas cards and Christmas grams to the residents, and they came up with the idea, and we're proud of them for thinking of that for the people less fortunate. The owner of Ivy Hall was very appreciative of the gifts. Kelly Stansberry and Paula Eden sponsored that group. They've also been busy with some other service projects over the last 3 months. In October, they visited Niswonger Children's Hospital and delivered 50-plus candy treat bags that they put together. One nurse, Ashley Graham, explained this was to the K kids about how different kinds of sickness that they treat at Niswonger. The K kids all wrote get well cards for the patients over there. And one student in particular, Mahala Nave, a 4th grade kid, came up with the idea to make these no-fleece throws for the patients over there. And so her and her mom went and bought the material, and her mom chronicled all of it, Miss Star Nave, and they made 28 fleece throws that they delivered to the patients over there a couple days before we got out for Christmas break. So that was really awesome, and they do a lot with servant leadership in K kids. November, they collected approximately 1,000 cans of food to deliver to Hale Community Ministries. And on Monday, November 19th, they walked up there, unloaded all the cans and stuff like that at the Hale Community Center. And the people that sponsored that trip was Amy Tapp, Sean Julian, Penny Nave, and Marcia Taylor. Let's see, on 17th of December, the K Kids also went to Ivy Hall Nursing Home and Hermitage Health Center. They delivered Christmas cards that they made in guidance class. They sang Christmas carols, and their behavior was excellent. They've been invited back for the next years to come because they did such a great job. In the first week of December, we celebrated the grand opening of the Storybook Trail in conjunction with Grove Carter County, right down there beside the Tweetsie Trail, runs by the school. We also had Kaylee Furchess, a 5th grade student, was recognized by the Elizabethton Star recently for collecting stuffed animals, toys, and dog food and cat food on her own, and she made a donation to a local animal shelter. So one of our kindergarten teachers, Miss Cole, was selected as Teacher of the Month by 98.5 WTFM in Milligan College for December, and that was a really awesome surprise. Let's see. Miss Wiles and Miss Cates, our instructional coach, also put together family math night that we held October 23rd for grades 1 through 5. And we also on grades 1 through 2 an addition of subtraction. Grades 3 through 5 were multiplication and division. That's where we bring in people in the community, or the families in the community, and we allow them to go through some math games and things like that to kind of promote academics. Let's see. Our kindergarten parents also attended a 2-hour Make It Take It workshop that Miss Cates put together. And we're also going to have a makeup in the end of January for those parents that didn't get to attend. We had about half attendance at the first one, and so we're going to try to get the rest of them there for this January. Miss Landstreet and Miss Daughtry and RTI, their numbers have moved through the program, and so we're looking at Tier 3 and Tier 2 movement. Our overall numbers in Tier 2 reading school-wide went from 30 to 17, and Tier 3 went to 32 to 20. and from 62 students in reading RTI to 37 for the second semester. So we're seeing some growth there with our students. And as far as Ms. Daughter reported that in Tier 2 we had student numbers move from 66 to 40 in Tier 3 and 27 to 12 in Tier 2. So great job with our interventionists there. Our RTI 2B program is one of the major programs in our school that helps promote positive school climate and character building. We work on treating each other's right, making smart decisions, and maximizing potential for our students. Values presented this year include wisdom, initiative, contentment, cooperation, and compassion. We finished the school year with self-control, service, hope, and perseverance. Our students do really enjoy these lessons as they include video segments and guided activities to help them understand each value and its significance in real-world situations. Our students have the opportunity to earn B slips daily for demonstrating these character traits. Respect, caring, responsibility, fairness, trustworthiness, and citizenship. The student's name is written on a slip of paper, and it's identified which character trait they exhibit, and then that's dropped into what we call the beehive near the office weekly. And 6 names are drawn out each week on Friday morning, and these kids receive a special prize. We found this to be a great way to recognize our students for being awesome at school and developing those character traits. And we also select a student of the month. Each month, the homeroom teacher nominates a student who exhibits a monthly character trait. These students are recognized on awards day, and their pictures are placed in the foyer at school. Their parents receive a letter to inform them of that recognition, and it's just another way for us to focus on their positive behaviors. Our Hurricane Way celebrations at the end of each 9 weeks is also part of our RTI 2B program. The students without office referrals during that 9-week period may attend the Just Be Awesome reward time, where they'll participate in the celebration. Students that do not attend that will get to do makeup work and also meet with us and have some counseling with our counselor and myself and Ms. Nave. And we'll talk to them about making better choices. The Hurricane Way has improved our school climate in the hallways, cafeteria, and classrooms. Our first celebration included a spiderweb crawl, popcorn hands, and refreshments. And this past week, the students enjoyed a Let It Snow craft, ice skating, a snow fort building in the gym, and a frozen sing-along and Arctic blast punch with winter trail mix. The past week, this student attendance was up from the first 9 weeks from 84% to 94% at the Hurricane Way. So that showed a decrease in any disciplinary instances or anything like that, and also an increase in attendance and good behaviors throughout the school. And that falls on everybody. That's teachers, all the faculty and staff that help make a difference there. So thanks to them. We'd also like to thank our parents and students for collecting over $7,000 during our Color Run fundraiser, and that's our PTAC. They organized that, ordering supplies, and participating in the Color Run, as well as preparing various awards for student accomplishments. Some of those rewards presented by PTAC were donuts for the classrooms with 100% participation, and also a day at Wallabies. A limo ride to Jay's Corner is to come for those students, as well as they get to have lunch with the principals and job shadowing with our faculty and staff. So a lot. I tried to get through it quick, but it was a lot that we went through in the fall. So
Would you like to take about 4 deep breaths?
I would.
Yeah.
I would. I think my
Yeah.
watch alerted him and my heart's
I think
racing
you
a little
should get
bit.
a water and a donut and some
Eat a little
just
bit.
hands on the knees and
Yeah. Yeah.
that was
So,
impressive.
But thank you all very much.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. All right. Time for citizens to speak in accordance with Board Policy 1.404. We didn't have anyone asked to address the board, so we're going to move on. So it's time to approve the consent and regular agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a correction. So if you will look somewhere on all your stack of stuff, there is a correction for attachment 17. So we will be voting on this, not the one that's in your packet. So please note that. And does anybody else have any questions or comments on the consent or regular agenda? All right. Item on the floor, approved consent regular agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Gardner, your report.
Okay. Thank you to everyone who came out tonight to support our students, especially the ones that are doing great things. And I wanted to give our Alex Campbell and our board just a little bit of time talking about the blended classes that we have that we're doing this year and some of the progress we made on that. So we appreciate it. Could you come and talk with our students?
First of all, I'd like to say I would like to go back to elementary school. We never had that much fun stuff going on when I was in elementary school.
You would have been the kid having to go to the principal, wouldn't you?
Maybe so,
Probably.
but I mean that sounds like they had a lot of neat stuff going on. So, but anyway, Mr. Wassam and I taught the first integrated U.S. History and English 3 class at Elizabethton High School this year, and we thought it was important to start blending classes together, help our students see that to solve problems, it's good to take the knowledge from all the subjects you learn and put them together. So we started that this year, and I think the reason that we started with English 3 and U.S. History is because there is a lot of similarities in the curriculum, a lot of crossover there. So it was maybe one of the ones that was easier to do. So we each taught our own classes. You know, I still had U.S. History. He still has English 3. But what we did was we had 2 projects, one that lasted 9 weeks and another one in the second 9 weeks. But these projects were designed so that it forced the students to use their knowledge and skills from both subjects to accomplish these goals. And so actually I'm going to let Mr. Watson talk a little bit about his writing and the way he did those things.
Yeah, it was as an English teacher, it was a really big treat to do this for a lot of reasons, because when you teach an English class, no matter really what level you're at, and I've been at most, I've been in 7th and 8th and 9th and 11th now, and one problem you run into is dealing with the content that you choose to present the information you want to teach. And one thing that happens, one blessing of getting a chance to do something like this, is that we have this built-in content with their history. And so they'd come in, and if they learned something from Mr. Campbell, they knew that very well they could walk right into my class the next period, and then I'd be holding them up to that information as well. They'd have to know the same thing, and they'd have to use that information to do something different and do something English-related, where I might have a short story that was connected directly to what they were talking about. And one way that I think that really benefited both of us is with testing. And for one aspect is that in teaching writing, we deal with expository writing, like explaining things, arguing things, and telling stories. And one thing that we had the chance to do is that Mr. Campbell was able to present them with historical information. And then for his test, in a situation where he might normally have gotten we've talked about getting a paragraph or two from a student. Well, when that test shifts over to my room, and their English teacher is watching and saying, well, you're writing an argumentative essay for us about what you talked about the last few days, the results were amazing. The kids were really blew us away, and kids that we wouldn't have expected to blow us away necessarily, or that would have needed that extra push, and I think it acted as that extra push. So, and in the writing of the profile pieces, one thing that we've talked about often is that I've had a lot of the students that we had already. I know them from before, and a lot of them were good writers as freshmen. They're incredible writers as freshmen. But to see them as juniors being put into a setting where they had these projects that gave them something to care about and have this sort of importance embedded into it, what was just good writing before became good writing that had some soul behind it. And it was really, really meaningful to them, which you're going to hear about in a little bit, and meaningful to others. And Mr. Campbell mentioned that some of the pieces they wrote as their final project, or as the final piece of this larger project, are going to be appearing in the Elizabethton Star soon. And at the end of the project, they also recorded podcast reflections with one another in small groups that are going to be published on iTunes shortly. That'll be available to the community for them to hear the students themselves talk with one another about what was this experience like for us. So it was an amazing first opportunity, but we walked away with it from that first semester with a lot of ideas for how to improve it going into the second one. So.
Ms. Clara is so good. I sent a packet up to her really late, but I think you guys do have a packet. And it shows the syllabus and kind of the units we used. It talked about the academic merit badges, which we tried to focus on having them show us that they could do those things, not just memorize. And then also, there's a little bit about the projects in there, but also wanted to include like how we evaluate the merit badges that we created. There's one for English, there's one for history. How do we know that they're learning how to sympathize with a character, for example? So if you want to go through that. And then the other part that I think could be helpful, since there are so many different ways you can take U.S. history now, to really show what each one does. So you've got just regular U.S. history and geography, what's now called Tennessee statewide dual credit, advanced placement, and then the integrated Bartleby and U.S. history. So you can see the standards that are supposed to be covered, and then on the second sheet you can actually see the credits they will receive for that. And so because of the Bartleby partnerships, you can see on the final category there where it talks about the integrated Bartleby history and English, that they have a chance to receive lots of credits, streamlined applications to colleges, automatic admittance to college, all those things. So if you want to look at those, we put those together, and I appreciate Ms. Perkins putting that together really quickly. But the thing I'm really excited about is the students, and I'd like to present them here in just a second. But does anybody have any questions about any of those merit badges, or maybe the syllabus, or the credits or standards or anything that's on that sheet? Yeah, so anyway, we want the kids to be held to a high standard and make sure they're covering what they need for the state, but of course a lot of other things too. So we did 2 projects, and the first one was called Save Our Stories, and we challenged the students to find a veteran, and they could find their own if they didn't have anybody. That's one of the things Mr. Wasserman and I did. We went around and found them veterans. So they were supposed to find a conflict they cared about after World War II, they made a connection with, and then either they found their veteran or we helped them. And of course this was about a 6-part project, but one of the things they were moving toward at the end was to actually interview a veteran, create their own questions for the interview the veteran, and then create a profile piece. And so I have 2 students that are joining us, so you guys can come on up. They look a little nervous. But, and I think you'll see why I chose them to maybe present. So I wanted you to hear from them. What do they think about taking integrated classes? What did they get from it? How did it help them? What did they like? What they didn't like? And I'd also like them to talk about that profile piece and what they did with it, and I think you guys will enjoy that. So, did y'all draw straws? So, whichever one wants to go first.
Hello. Oh, this is okay, that's good. Good evening. I'm Reagan Kelly. I was very fortunate to be a part of this class this past semester. I was very excited to come back to school and learn about Gatsby in English class and the Roaring Twenties in history class, but that's not the stuff that really stuck with me. So like we said, we talked about the veterans and the Save Our Stories project, and I decided to do an interview with my grandfather, who was a Vietnam veteran. So I went to his little car lot and I did the interview, and I just came out to my car after and started crying my eyes out. I had realized how impactful this project was just after the interview. So I write the paper, I get Mr. Wassam to grade it, and I get it back in time that I can edit it and give it to him for Christmas. So I give it to him for Christmas, and Christmas is hectic with our family, so I just said, just tell me what you think later. And so I get a call the next day from him, and it was about 8:30, so it was random, and I say, hey, Poppy, is everything okay? He said thank you for that letter. Sorry, I'm trying not to cry.
It's okay, I'm trying not to cry with you, so I'm with you.
And his voice broke. Sorry. Because my grandpa is not the person you'd think would just cry over that. And so knowing that me, a teenager, 16-year-old girl, can make my grandfather cry from this project showed that I can do anything I put my mind to, and that I can make really good lemonade out of the lemons life throws at me. And I don't like calling this integrated class a class. I think that word class is a derogatory term for what this was. It was an experience, a life-changing experience, not just for me or for the people in my class, but for my family and for all the other veterans and people that had the opportunity to be interviewed. So I just want to say thank you for giving me this, and thank you for letting this happen. So, thank you.
Okay, so my name is Abby Addington, and I'm a junior who took this class. And what I really loved about this class is that it wasn't just not only like worksheets and presentations and hearing about all this information in class, but you were given the opportunity to like go out in the community and find someone who had experienced that firsthand. And I feel like there's not a lot of things in history that, you know, you can go and do that. And luckily, I was able to interview my grandpa, and I just know that the information I learned about like the Vietnam War, what that was like leaving my Nana for so long, like that is information that I am never going to forget, like more than something I just read out of a textbook. And like just the bond that I made with my grandpa, that, I mean, those questions are kind of hard to ask. And though, you know, you loved your grandparents, stuff like that, you probably are not going to talk about that stuff all the time. But just getting to ask those questions and like form that bond through this experience, I mean, I'm never going to forget that. And so using all the things that he taught me and the things that I learned in history and the skills that I was given in English this year, I was able to create like a tangible product, like this paper about my grandpa's experience. And first of all, just putting in a lot of work to write something about someone that you really love, it just means a lot in the first place. And then being able to like give that to them for Christmas, and seeing my grandpa, who's kind of just like this tough as nails type of guy, get emotional like about something that I had written for him was just, I mean, such a touching experience. And even having my other family members read it and them cry and things like that, I've just never, anything I've ever done in school, like any product I've ever created, has never had that type of effect on anyone before. So just seeing that something that I was able to create not only like helped my family bond, but like, you know, meant something to somebody else was just, I don't know, very touching. So I just want to say thank you to Mr. Campbell and Mr. Wasson for their help. So thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
It really is our pleasure, I'm sure Tim would agree, to work with these students. It's a blessing to work with them every day, and I think we get more from it than they do, because I got to read all, 50 of them or whatever it was, and they're all amazing. And you're making, I think we're going to try to make some of those available.
Yeah, I've got initial kind of 5 or 6. These are the first 5 or 6 that I've submitted to the Elizabethton Star are going to be made available to you all to read.
Yeah,
Oh,
so you guys will have like a file. Maybe Ms. Clara can help us or something. We'll get them a file where you can click on it and you can read them for yourself. But the students are amazing, and I appreciate the school and the school board wanting to do the integrated classes. We thought it was a great success. We're looking forward to this semester. We're going to try to win a national competition with podcasting. Mr. Wassam is the podcasting expert. So if he does his thing, maybe we can win this national competition. But also just trying to use both, the history and the English to help the kids accomplish these things. So anyway, if you don't have any questions for me or whatever, Mr. Wassam or the students, we won't take any more of your time. I know it's busy.
Well, thank you. And one of the things, I don't know if you guys know this, Mr. Campbell sends emails out once a week kind of telling us positive stories, because a lot of times when we get emails, they're not always positive. So it's nice to get positive emails. And mine are usually, I'm not crying. I sit there and weep. I'm sitting in my office. And so, if you do this, 1, 2, and then like that, it's a good way to not make it run down your face. So, yeah, I've learned that really well. Thank you guys so much. I would have loved to have had this opportunity when I was a student, or to have my daughters be able to do this. So enjoy it.
Thank you all.
Thank
Appreciate
you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I will be, thank you ladies, by the way, and gentlemen, for that. I'll probably be asking the board for a ratification on a trip that we're planning for next week, maybe next Thursday and Friday, to go to Mississippi and see the Labaki whole piece before we sign on to work with them. Now keep in mind that Labaki doesn't make any money off of us. They're there to help us consult with VR, and we're probably going to be doing that next Thursday and Friday. Spring registration tuition, Dr. Newman and Becca are working on that, trying to get everything ready. So we should have spring registration dates out. We're close this week, and they're going to meet Friday and then send that out to the public. So if you have, I've had a lot of parents asking me questions already about when this and that registration is going to be, so that will be out next week. Thanks to Becca for working on our annual report, and that will be available pretty soon, relatively soon. We have a lot of work to do yet on it, but she's working constantly on it to get it ready, so we appreciate her for that. Our 5-year plan meeting, Ms. Boer already talked about, so we'll have more solidifying a date on that. Wanted to say thank you also to Georgetta Robinson. If you know the late Connie Baker, that's her daughter. They've allowed us to park over here with much needed parking, and part of our contract that we have with her we give money, pay a rental fee each month to be able to use that. Well, as a gift this past week, she came in and gave half the money that we were giving to her for this year back to the school system as a donation for us to try to keep our computer lab up and running and furnished, so that was very nice of her. One piece of equipment that we're currently working with fire and police on is the barricade box, and I will have, if we get to our 5-year plan meeting, I'll show you a short video on that day of a possible tool we would help us in an intruder situation, so we'll be talking about that later on. We would like to do a city council caravan in February, so if you have some dates, if you'll please send those to us. We'd like to bring them in and talk about some of the capital improvements we have planned and what we've already done since the last one we've had.
We're getting on the bus.
We're getting on the bus.
Getting on the bus, all right.
And we'll pick 2 or 3 schools, but try to have an overview for city council during their period where they're working on their budget. Beth helped me with going to see Mary Ann Dursky, if you know her. She's the financial honcho in the state. So we have a meeting on the 30th. If anyone would like to accompany us to go to that meeting, it's limited space though, isn't it?
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Well, if you would like to go, anyone's very interested in that, we'd love to have you. We can try to take less of us and one of you or a couple of you if you'd like to come and see what we're going to be doing and how funding's changing. We have Team 2.0 training. All but me have been trained. Mr. Trent and I had to go to court the other day. And speaking of that, we did get a judgment in our favor with a long-standing lawsuit that's really been over the past couple years. How many years, Mr. Trent, has that been? Maybe 5 or 6. But we did get a judgment in our favor on that based on some equipment that was stolen from us and then pawned. And so that happened. So we also have Team 2.0 training. We're going to be kind of, I guess the best term is Dr. Newman, migrating and doing some training for our teachers and staff over a period of time, because I think the state will be moving to that very shortly. Mr. Smith has worked tirelessly on our opportunity to have upgrades to our commons area, and we will soon be working on a sound system and projectors for that area, and so we can do presentations in there, so that will really help our entire school system. I'll be sending out, I just sent the finalized sign design for the old hospital property, which has been approved by the LaPorte Foundation. But we will bring that back to the board to take a look now and make a decision on that. But it's approved by them. We have an opportunity this summer. I've been contacted by 2 universities to have a summer STEM or STREAM camp, and they would bring people in for a cost for our kids, but we would offer it here in our high school probably, and some of the rooms we have there. So we're going to look at that. I'll have more information on that next month. We would really love to be able to do that and see if it's any different than what Niswonger is already doing. If it's more intense and we think has better rigor, we may choose going with that. We had contact today from Karen Ritchie, who came last year to talk with us about making a partnership between, there's about 50 HR directors in the Tri-Cities, anybody from Eastman to General Shale, and that type of thing. So she contacted us today, and she's going to be working on a partnership with our Bartleby program and wants to work with our students specifically. So we're glad to have her on board and be working with us very soon on that. Let's say thanks to Mr. O'Quinn for all of your work, working on some grants and trying to help us move our makerspace forward, and we'll see if it comes to fruition, but the work is appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there is a conflict with the next board meeting in February. We would ask if there's an opportunity to move it one day earlier, which would be the Monday, which is President's Day. We have parent-teacher conference, I believe, that day. But is there a conflict with anyone if we moved it one day earlier next month? Okay. You all good? You feel okay? All right. We'll go ahead and put public notice out and make that 2/18. And finally, Melina, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about your survey.
Okay. So last month, I conducted a simple survey that simply asked students to give their input on the physical and emotional safety at the high school. They were asked to report on how often they felt physically and emotionally safe at the high school. Always, usually, half the time, sometimes, or never. And then they were asked to just explain their answer and give a few suggestions on how they feel EHS could be safer in both aspects. Thankfully, there was an overwhelming majority of positive feedback that said students usually, if not always, feel safe in both aspects at the high school. There are a lot of students that stated having an SRO at the school really helped to just create a safer, more comfortable environment. Not only that, but students stated that their trust in the faculty and the STRIVE program helped to build that environment. The suggestions mainly focused on renovating the bathrooms and just trying to have a more engaging, positive atmosphere at the high school. Along with that, students were also asked how comfortable they felt talking with school faculty and the school board about school safety, to which the feedback mainly varied from saying that students agreed that they were comfortable or that they were neutral on the subject. I hope this information is beneficial in any sort, and I just wanted to say that going through these surveys really bolstered my pride in attending Elizabethton, just from the positive feedback that students had to say about the school itself and the work of the faculty and the school board.
Well, if you have any results that are things we need to work on, we'd be willing to sit down with students and just talk about it.
Okay.
You know, if you feel that would be something that, and we can make those the topics that we bring up and talk about. We can do a couple days after school or whatever.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
Do you have a feel for how concerned students are about safety in the first place?
I have had a few people come talk to me about the physical safety of the high school closer to the beginning of the year, so that just kind of pushed me to, you know, ask the students, like a wider range of students. But from the surveys, I mean, it's really just, it was positive feedback mostly. So
I am worried about one thing. You know, we've had in our systems over the years, we've had drills, which are necessary and part of our safety plan. But there have been some recent studies discussing how it affects kindergarten, first, second, third, to have the constant awareness of what to do in those events. And I don't know a way around it. I'm just curious how much that weighs, you know, on the developing minds. They watch television, they watch the news, they're constantly, we grew up without worrying about being outside after dark with our bicycles, and now, you know, we've disconnected from the world and from outdoor play and from, you know, being at a park alone without a parent standing within so many yards, and everybody disconnects and talks on their phones instead of to each other. And I don't know how much of that safety issue we ever talk about, the emotional impact of what we do. But it is something to think about. I was curious what you know, what you learned from your survey, but also how it is affecting even the younger years, where maybe they don't feel so threatened by those events, their knowledge of world events and what goes on in real life. Unfortunately, I have a friend who lived in the Parkland School District, and his neighbor was one of the victims of that horrific crime. And it always weighs heavily on my heart as to how we could make sure that is a never event in our system. And I know we talked in the past at some of our safety meetings, but one of those things is getting engagement and making sure every student's connected. And we had the football team here today, and I was thinking, win or lose, the teams like that, the band, they're such a big part of our safety program because they make everybody have a place to belong, to be, what you said was, I'm proud of the school, I'm proud that I'm part of it. And when people are, and everybody is engaged and has an avenue to engage, whether it be track or, band or academics or, whatever, those things make the school stronger. And in the profiles of those people that have created some of the safety issues. And of course, that's just the microcosm of safety with active shooter and things. But we're also talking about fire and, and emotional safety and all kinds of other things. So my question was just about that, and that's why I was asking, was if you had noticed that this is something people sit around and think about all the time.
I just heard a few of the comments, but I will say that on the surveys, there are a lot of students that said part of the safety of their environment was because of precautions taken by the school. So I don't know how that affects younger generations, but I know that students at the high school feel safer from things that school faculty does or that the precautions that we take.
I also think kind of just what you did in asking. Sometimes people just want to be asked.
Yeah, that was a big reason I wanted to do this because that really does help in emotional safety, just feeling included. So I tried to get a wide range of students to ask.
I think it's really good that that's one of my favorite things about having a student liaison is that you are an approachable person that they, because you're a peer and they can talk to you. And I'm a firm believer that sometimes people just need to be asked. And you mentioned Strive. And,
yeah, I was so happy to see that multiple students put that on there. That really made me happy to see.
And one of the things that Grover talked about is you have these attachment groups, so you have band and you have things. And I think one of the things that Bartleby has provided is students a place. Maybe, you don't have to be an athlete or a band person, but you've been looking for your place, and then you get involved in Bartleby, and whether it's the entrepreneurial class or the community service, and they find their place. And I just love that's one other layer that we have where students find their niche, and I'm so appreciative of what's happening in our system right now.
I think our high school, our middle school does a fantastic job as students are getting to that time of plugging them in somewhere. Yep. I think that there's so many clubs and organizations. We have so many because teachers are willing to sponsor those, and that makes a huge difference. It helps them in the classroom because they're connected in another way outside the classroom with them. And when you look across the faculty, if you just talk about the high school, it's hard to find someone that's not involved in something extra. They are all very involved, and so that makes a huge difference. And in the end, it's a safety piece too.
It is a part of it, and that was the other thing when you were talking about this integrated coursework. That is brilliant on so many levels. But you brought the community into the classroom without even trying, and it was a byproduct. And then you learn more efficiently through that. So anyway, hats off to that. But it also adds to safety to have that type of thing where the community then takes ownership. Those two grandfathers now feel a connection that's stronger and a support for what we're trying to do here with their youth that they may not have felt before. And when that gets published by the paper, thank you for doing so, those people that read those stories will know about a local hero, not just the ones that they have to know about for the others. So they take pride in their community, which to our commissioner, thank you for coming, but that helps to make a community that wants to live here and grow this community. And so I take a lot of pride in all those things. But thank you so much for doing the survey. I do appreciate it.
I hope it helps.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Thanks.
Any more things? Mr. Quinn, Mr. Plus, do y'all want to report on your orientation at all?
Just
just very, very helpful, very good training both days. I think we both agree. Just, it's different sitting here as opposed to out there. And, I was very pleased with the training. Very interesting, kept us engaged. So, much better than most things you have a chance to attend.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else have anything? All right, let's get to the agenda. First item, and remember we'll be using this. So first item is approve on first reading Board Policy 6.204, attendance of non-resident students as revised. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, in general, we wanted to move from 9 payments to 8, and based on what Ms. Brewer had to say, we're going to try to make 4 in the first semester, which will affect next semester, and then for this semester. You'll notice that we do not have payments at the end of each semester because we feel that that's an important thing if people are leaving and so forth. So it's just a change in how we're going to collect that. We moved to a monthly system a couple years ago, and we really have had great compliance with that. Rather than one lump sum, it's easier on parents, and they can afford to come. And I think it's increased our tuition.
Are a lot of people using PayPal?
How many? We think about 150, maybe, Beth.
It's about 150 monthly, total about 109.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions or comments on this? All right. Item on the floor, approve on first reading Board Policy 6.204, attendance of non-resident students as revised. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, approve proposed ECS calendar 2019-2020. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, this is general, our calendar. We tried to stay again, even up the semesters the best way we could. Our Dr. Newman and our teachers worked on this to make sure it was as close to what they wanted, and took information back to their schools to make sure that there was input from them. And we stayed away from a home football game. We tried to do that because we have to have so many workers for that as well for fall break.
So students will start a little bit later, looks like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, kind of.
Kind of.
We're pretty close to where we were, a little bit.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that? Appreciate all the hard work. I would not want to serve on that committee at all, so thank you all for everyone who works on that. Okay. Item on the floor, approve proposed ECS calendar for 2019-2020. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, approve payment of $25,480 to physical therapy services for the balance due on services rendered to ECS students during the 2017-2018 school year. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. This is as you know, if you've let this comes out of Mr. Van Huss's budget, but as you know, Danny has done a lot for our system and done that. And in the language we had of his contract, there was a discrepancy on how he had billed many years prior to and how it was listed in the contract. And so going back and looking at that, we felt it was right to go ahead and make it to what we've done over the past several years. And so if you look specifically, it's always been billed in 15-minute increments, and in their contract they mistakenly put 30-minute increments instead.
Wow.
So which shorted them, not half the cost, but quite a bit of cost. And so once it was called to our attention, we deliberated on it for a while. We just kind of talked about it back and forth to see what was fair, but we thought that in the end we would bring that to the board and see if you all would consider that.
Okay. Oh yeah, they take excellent care of our
They
kids.
do take
Golly.
excellent care of our kids.
I know they'll come in on weekends and nights and.
And so this is what it was the year prior. We just
Yes.
it was a clerical error and an oversight.
It was.
Is this payable in immediate,
Mm.
as an immediate check, or is this over time?
This would be one lump sum check.
Are we able to do that from our general fund without it
Yes,
hurting?
we're in good shape.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Approve payment of $25,480 to physical therapy services for the balance due on services rendered to ECS students during the 2017-28 school year. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next item, approve purchase of 75 Chromebooks from CDW utilizing the state bid pricing contract with payment of $16,350 from funds through the Bartleby program grant. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a purchase for 75 Chromebooks, and these will go in the hands of teachers. It will help us with testing. It'll also help them in their classroom as they're trying to take care of many odds and ends that we have them do. So we thank our folks at Bartleby and working with us to try to get some great things for our teachers, which they need.
Mr. Smith, you polled the teachers and they wanted the Chromebooks, correct?
Yes, they asked them unanimously. They chose the Chromebooks over a lesser amount of laptops.
Cool.
They just were so short, they just needed them very bad.
Okay, excellent.
$218 a piece, that's a
Yeah.
deal.
That's a great deal.
Any other questions or comments? All right. On the floor, approved purchase of 75 Chromebooks from CDW utilizing the state bid pricing contract with payments of $16,350 from funds through the Bartleby program grant. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Approved scheduled service agreement with Train for maintenance on equipment at ECS Central Office, Elizabethton High School, Harold McCormick Elementary, and T.A. Duggar Junior High for the period of February 1, 2019 through January 30, 2020 for a total contract amount of $14,720. Can I get a motion to approve?
Definitely.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a annual maintenance contract that we do for boilers and chillers, and it just basically extends the life of them. And then if we need to have work go on with those during the school year, they basically will drop everything and come and make sure they're operational. And so we've done this for several years, along with doing a lot of other HVAC upgrades, and we'll be talking about that next month some as well. But it does help us stay on par for where we need them to operate and get more life out of them.
Those babies aren't cheap, are they?
They are not.
That's why I said definitely.
Yeah,
Because when those go down, we're out 80,000
Or more.
Yeah, at a minimum. That's, I think, the lowest we've ever done.
you should periodically just go over and just like pray over those things every now
Especially
and
when
then.
hot water goes through
Oh,
them.
gosh.
And how many boilers are there? There's probably boilers.
If
and
you look
chillers.
at, there's a schedule on here.
Yeah, there's a ton of them.
That'll show you the equipment coverage on each. If you start 6 of 18 and then go over, it'll show you the different boilers and chillers that we have. And so there's quite a few.
Wow. All right. Any other questions or comments?
We have something similar with the two schools aren't mentioned, I think West Side and East Side.
Do you want to talk about West Side and East Side?
We primarily, at those schools, we don't have the boilers and chillers. They're pretty much just heat pumps.
Water bus heat pump.
Yeah.
And just another question, have we ever just checked with other companies to get a price comparison on this?
We have. We went through a process many years ago.
I lived through that process.
It was,
Yes.
we had ESG, Train, cannot remember the other company, but we're allowed to pick a contractor that serves as our energy savings provider. And so that's how we've done what we've done. It has been absolutely, there are times where we'll go out and we'll look, we'll still get bids on with that. It doesn't mean that we would have to use them, but we do because of where our controls are set up to go that way, and the control market's getting ready to change because they're going to be universal controls. But with the way it is right now, it's made sense for us to be able to control the climate to save energy. So.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Item item on the floor, approved scheduled service agreement with Train for maintenance on equipment at ECS Central Office, Elizabethton High School, Harold McCormick, T.A. Duggar, for the period of February 1, 2019 through January 31, 2020, for a total contract amount of $14,720. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, approve amount not to exceed $40,000 based on an hourly rate to Thomas Weems, architect, for renovation plans for makerspace and amphitheater at Elizabethton High School, which require the fire marshal approval. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, this is amount not to exceed, and you'll wonder why it says based on an hourly rate, but what we're going to try to do is, there's a couple ways of looking at it. We would like to pay the cheapest amount that we possibly could, and he has agreed to work with us. Right now, engineers are at a premium to be able to design things. The other thing is, based on possible improvements to our makerspace in that project, we may need to have some specific things done that are far less than what we anticipate. So we're going to ask the board to approve $40,000 in a general. I asked him to give me an estimate generally what it would take for both of those projects to design what we would need to go to the fire marshal to get approval. Okay, but we think there may be some opportunities for savings. He thinks there may be some opportunities for savings. But as far as putting in a contract and not knowing what the engineering fees are going to be, he was unwilling to do that because he said, I have to consult with them first. So he is in the process of doing that, and when he can get that back and get us a closer number, he'll come back. If it's anything over the $40,000, or I think it's going to be an exorbitant amount, I'll bring it back to the board and we'll look at it again before we start. Okay? But we can go with an hourly rate if it's something small, and not spend near that amount of money. Okay? So I'll probably send you all an email if you vote tonight. I'll send you an email with that, and then we'll try to, I'll talk with you and say, okay, this is what we need to do, and move it forward, or bring it back to the board. Okay?
What's the time frame on these projects? Do you have a tentative plan?
Well,
or?
Our goal, definitely for the makerspace, would be that we would be able to have that ready to go August 1st. That's our goal in general. The amphitheater will come after that, but we have an opportunity, just based on what we have right now, to pour the foundation for the stage in there. Well, we've had a proposal come in for $4,200, which was far under what we anticipated and what we had other bids on. So we probably would start a little bit there just to get it functional, and then look at doing some of the other work. But it's, because it's over, we'd have to go and put through a bid process.
What will the amphitheater problems it'll cause as far as disruption entering the school in the main entryway, or is it, I mean, is that just something you just have to deal with, or is it better to wait till summer, or is it?
Well, the disruption that we'll have, they could probably come pour it in a few days. What do you say, a weekend? It would be close.
It might be kind of tough with, they're going to have to bring some gravel and stuff in. They'll probably need a minimum of a week, probably.
But we'll talk with you all about that as well. But we can do that without fire marshal approval, but doing the block work and things that we need to do in there, we'll definitely need fire marshal approval.
Would Mr. Williams have his work partially complete by our February meeting where we can talk about our 5-year maybe?
Yeah. We may have a much better proposal there.
Yeah, I'd really like to see that when we sit down to our 5-year. I'd like to know how it affects the T.A. Duggar longer range plans as well that we've been talking about. And I know that we'll talk about that next time, but it'd be nice to have this piece of that puzzle for the whole thing, because we've not forgotten that. It's just, I think that the board is.
This falls under with XQ money.
We do have some money for that project in that, yes. But what I'd say about T.A. Duggar, we're having conversations about that. I think that it's time, we're getting closer to the time where budget's happening. We need to sit down and talk with city council about that and see where we are. You know, I've been talking with the city manager and the mayor both about that project. And we just need to sit down and get you all up to speed on
I know at least in our election cycle, for the three of us that were in the other cycle, that was something that the voters made clear they wanted to see done.
Right.
And I think
Absolutely.
we heard that and wanted to make sure that we don't forget that. The stadium was a big part of that as well, and we've completed that project and
And the TA Duggar's been on the
But TA
table for
Duggar
8
was-
years.
Yeah.
It's been a part of it for as long as I've been on here, and
Yep.
it's been something that I heard loud and clear that we need to not forget that project.
Right.
So.
Well,
Should
But
be
I know
longer
that's
than 8 years.
next time, and this is separate, but it's just, it'd be nice to have
We
the
have
knowledge
this
of it.
information by the time we have that
And
conversation.
maybe
Yeah.
a way to tie some of those things together with Mr. Weems, because he's been very able to help us in the past.
we had a conversation last week just about funding for that, for TA Duggar, and they're looking at another bond run to see how closely we're gonna be. One great thing that's gonna happen in the 2019-20 school year would be that they're going to rotate a lot of debt, city debt rotates off at that point. And so, you know, we need to look at that as a possible opportunity. The other possibility is if the county would have a bond issue where they're looking at doing some consolidation and things, you know, that would be another opportunity for us as well. So, but that's been on the books for how many years? 7 or 8 years, you know, but they're looking at that coming up at some point. They would have to, I'd say. So, either one, I think that's opportunities for us. So.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, item on the floor, approve amount not to exceed $40,000 based on an hourly rate to Thomas Weems, architect, for renovation plans for Maker's Space and Amphitheater, Elizabethton High School, which require fire marshal approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, approve establishment of in-school partnership with Northeast Community Credit Union to establish a kiosk at Elizabethton High School, which would be supervised by their staff and EHS students, thus providing EHS students an opportunity for expanding their financial education through an immersive learning opportunity. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thanks to Josh and Becca for bringing this to us from Northeast Credit Union. This will give an opportunity for our students to do banking on a daily basis for students setting up accounts and that type of thing. They also will be willing to help us with financial literacy for students, things like credit card debt and those types of things. Teach them some what I consider to be to go along with our personal finance class that they already have. But some of the students that may be interested in that area, give them an opportunity to have a real world experience supervised by a professional in banking. So we looked over the proposal. It's something that's done as a program nationally, and we're just lucky enough to have someone that might participate in it.
Where
So,
would the kiosk be set?
we're thinking they would be in the commons area during lunch.
Would it cause any, will it have any transactions that occur through that kiosk?
Transactions or heavy transactions.
Will it have anywhere like an ATM? Are they going to be able to do those sorts of transactions? You said setting up accounts, it was immersive learning, but
Yeah, they will be able to do transactions, but I don't know necessarily with the people that we're talking about, they're on ramen noodles, so it's going to be dollars rather than 20s. So I think it's more the experience of helping them set up account. One of the things that when they came to pitch it was a lot of students go to college and they've never set up a bank account.
yeah.
And a lot of them don't know what happens during that process. You know, mom and dad are busy or whatever. A lot of kids may just bank with mom and dad, which is fine. But students that would need access to that, we think it would be good.
Well, and even a lot of students don't have that opportunity, and that's actually what's exciting about it. But I guess my question is leading into security.
You worried we're going to have a bank robbery?
Not so much, but I know
We
they're
do have an
managing
SRO
it,
in there.
but I do recognize that it becomes a target, and a target for identity theft, where people put card readers on and they can read your cards and things like that. And I would assume that all those, but I try not to assume anything. So my question is, I want to make sure that Northeast State, or Northeast, not Northeast State, sorry, Northeast Community Credit Union is responsible for identity theft issues or any legal issues that might come about by the utilization of this because it's on our property and we approved it.
You said this is a national program?
Yeah, I'm sure it's taken care of in my heart, but I haven't seen
would
that.
you like for us to
Since
have?
we like you, be Dr. Shao.
Yeah, well, what we can do is, those type of concerns, we can address them with them when they come in and sit down and go through security. You know, if they, obviously, if it's their money they have there, they're going to want it to be secure. So, but we will definitely vet that, go through.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the concept. You know, the devil's in the details. I'd want to make sure that when you work out the
Absolutely.
agreement, I'm fine with making the partnership. I think that we need to have it spelled out that if someone puts a card reader that steals someone's identity and they end up taking out loans in some 18-year-old kid's name, and 4 years later that kid tries to apply for a home loan and his credit's trashed, that it wasn't because of the school system that put that card reader there, but it was, you know, because that's, to me, because of their age, they may also not be thinking about those types of things, and someone may target them. Interestingly enough, physicians are often targeted when they first start practice because people take loans in their names, and I had that happened to one of our physicians in my practice, that they stole their identity, and when they went to get a house loan, because they had been in school, right, for residency, but they had their degree and they were known as a physician, somebody saw their address, their social security number, applied for loans, and by the time they went to get into private practice, their school loans were coming due now. They went to get loans and they couldn't get a loan, and I was like, wow. So it opened my eyes, and I would think that a vulnerable population might be young kids that maybe don't have credit established yet, that maybe while they're getting it.
Well, I know several school systems have talked about they buy identity theft insurance on every student they have.
Wow.
As a general budget item, and
Absolutely for the
in
FERPA
general,
stuff.
I don't
we've
know
got.
necessarily that's not a bad solution for us to maybe look at as well
What a
down
world.
the road.
Any other questions or comments?
If other institutions are interested in doing the same thing, that would, I mean, we entertain that. I'm just curious because others may see
In
that and want
fact,
to.
I sent, we have a close relationship with Citizens Bank, and I sent the program to him to vet and look at as a second opinion on whether he thought, Joe thought it was good. He said, I think it's a fantastic program.
But they don't want to do it.
Yeah, they did not
Yeah,
want to
okay.
do it. He said, I think it's a fantastic program. Maybe we could hire some of the tellers that come out and get experience. So, but I did call him and sent the information to him to look over as well.
It is a good idea for students to kind of have that bank experience. I remember being at ETSU a million years ago, and a guy thought as long as he had checks, he had money in his account. So,
I wanted to know how the kids are going to learn to write their name in cursive.
oh yeah.
We took that out of the curriculum.
Well, they have autographs.
They got to sign their name.
It's autographs
Just
now.
autographs.
It's not, yeah.
Just
it's
make
not
your
It's not a
mark.
signature. It's just an autograph. All right. Item on the floor: approve establishment of in-school partnership with Northeast Community Credit Union to establish a kiosk at Elizabethton High School, which will be supervised by their staff and EHS students, thus providing our students an opportunity for expanding their financial education through an immersive learning opportunity. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Last item, approve annual audit report for Elizabethton Board of Education internal school funds, regulatory basis, and Elizabethton City Schools, a component unit of the City of Elizabethton for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2018. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, this is the annual audit report that we have from Blackburn Children's Stegall. It did have a few areas for us to work, which we've done a compliance plan on and sent that into them. But in general, they've done a fantastic job. accounts payable, and so forth. So we appreciate the hard work of our finance department.
Any questions or comments? All right. Last item, approve annual audit report for Elizabethton Board of Education, internal school funds, regulatory basis, and Elizabethton City Schools for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2018. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 3 things. Number 1, do not leave without signing something for Ms. Perkins. It's a bank card, is that what that is, that you need signature for? And she will tackle you at the door. Nobody wants to see that. Second of all, I am guessing most of you received in the mail this little envelope from the Bureau of Ethics and Campaign Finance. Please fill this out. This has to be turned in by the end of January. We have to, all elected officials fill these out. You'll have to do it every year. Just write down your password and your sign-in for it, because you only do it once, and if you don't, you'll forget it. So that needs to happen.
Just want to say thank you, Mr. Hutchins. This transportation
Oh.
field trip manual and transportation log that he produced today will come along. I sent you all a 5-year plan, and if you look at the board agenda that we passed, or the board policy that we passed, we have specific things to work on this year with our 5-year plan. But this transportation is a part of that, so I'll set that out. I don't know how I'm going to be able to get it. It may be many different pages, but we'll send that out to you. But you should have at this point the updated capital plan that Mr. Van Huss finished is in there, and the new one we'll send today, and this transportation. You'll have all the information we have to get started on our discussion.
Cool. So is everybody okay with having our meeting on the 18th and then staying afterwards? We'll adjourn the meeting, we'll take a minute, and then we'll go over, kind of talk about the Bartleby to XQ Super School, and then work on our 5-year plan. Is everybody okay with that? Okay.
And Mrs. Wilson, fiscal workshop next month. Could we come before and do the fiscal workshop? Because if we can do it in February.
Yeah, is it that time again?
February and March.
So come at what time? 5:30?
Say 5:30.
Okay, I'm good.
Good.
So we're going to spend a lot of quality time together.
Next month.
All right, so 5:30, that workshop, 6:30 the meeting. Afterwards, we'll do our version of a board retreat. All right. The next regularly scheduled board meeting will be Monday, February 18th, also known as my daughter's birthday. Here, 5:30 at the Matt Pierce Boardroom.
And thank you to all the schools for
Yes, and
the
thank you
gifts
for
the
making us
board.
feel loved. Oh, thank you. We love you all. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a good evening. Thank you all.